Let's go. I really got the feeling today that everything is going my way. Now this is what I'm talking about. Every time I see your smile, it makes me shout. Let's go! Let's go! Nothing's gonna stop us today. Get on the bus or get out the way. We're cruising with the radio on. So turn it up to 10. Here comes our favorite song. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Welcome to another Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn, good whatever, wherever you find yourself. This is the Mystified Tech with Sam. I'm yours truly, Samuel Adrani. In today's episode, we'll be looking at how to add language understanding to our bot, moving away from regular expressions to language understanding. When we come back, we will jump right into that. Stick and stay with me. Okay, we are back. We are back. We're back. We're back. We're back. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again for making a date with me. If you're joining us from Facebook, from YouTube, from Twitter, from Periscope, from Twitch, say hi and I'll acknowledge your presence. I hope you're getting a good feed. It seems for some reason it says I'm dropping frames, but I hope that is not the case outside. So I'm trying to monitor that to make sure that at least we're getting some good output there. Well, if you this is your first time you're joining, I'm sure you probably heard about the channel from a friend, a friend, friend of a friend, friend of a friend, 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 friend. Whichever or however it is you heard about it, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button right here so that when I release any new content, you would get to be notified. Well, with that said, let's get into it. Well, last week we're still waiting for we started our mystery thing last week, so still waiting for people to put it in. Well, today we'll be talking about Luis or language understanding, adding that to our bot. For the previous episodes, we've been building our bots. We've always been using regular expressions recognizer as a way to recognize or determine the intent for which someone is trying to access the bot. And to actually get this going, let me go ahead and bring up the screen so that we can learn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know what's happening, but I find it strange that lately, I'm getting all this crazy frame dropping, even though I'm like using just like 10% of my CPU. I've dropped about 24% of frames, and I don't know what's happening. I don't have any crazy things running. So my suspicion is potentially there's something. The only thing I can remember changing actually is this wallpaper thing from Bing. That's the only thing that I think I remember I added, and I've actually stopped the service, so I'm not sure why this is misbehaving, but let's take it from there. So we have our bot opening, and last week we started with the numbers bot, and if you were following with me, we created it was just a simple thing to show how to make HTTP requests or external requests from our bot. And if you followed closely, you will notice that if I take you to this side, for every dialog, all right, for every dialog you create for your bot, there is a recognizer type. Okay, so the recognizer type is how the bot is able to determine your intent what you intend to do for it to call the proper triggers within the dialog. And for the purposes of this channel, we have been using the regular expression recognizer, which simply means that it's going to look out for anything that matches the pattern defined in a regular expression. So I'll give you an example here. Let's go here. So in here, I just created I created another dialog called get random number fact. I could have different dialogs that trigger different things. Now, if we look at this get random number dialog, you realize that we would have the opportunity to actually determine what recognizer we use, as in whether we are using Luis or we're using regular expression recognizer. So if we click on this and we come here on the right side, here you notice that it's actually going off of what? A regular expression recognizer. So this tells us that for this particular dialog, we're using a regular expression recognizer to determine, okay, the intent of the person interacting with the bot. Now, if we look at the options, if I hit the drop down here and bring this back in view, you can see that we have the, how do you call it, we have the regular expression. We also have the, how do you call it, we have the default recognizer, okay, which is Luis. And then we have the regular expression, which is the one we use for our bots. And then there's a custom recognizer, so you can actually build a custom recognizer. Oh, we have a returnee, Miss Nyako. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing great and you're enjoying the session. If you have any questions, please kindly drop them in the chat and I would answer that. Hope you had a good week. I know I owe you some plenty things. Please, I will redeem them. Don't worry. So, in today's episode, we're going to see how to change to the Luis recognizer. All right. But to do this, you need to have, followed us, created a very basic hello bot, and try to create an interaction with it. So I went out of my way to, just play around a bit with our number bot, took a few things away, and then created this trigger. So what I'm going to do is let's quickly do this numbersapi.com and then /40. Okay, so let's do this. Yeah, so all I'm doing currently right now is just, and we have Ron. Welcome, Ron. Welcome to the show. Hope you having an awesome. Oh, that's okay. That's why we have a channel. If you missed the Tuesday show, once you subscribe, go to the YouTube channel. All the goodness is happening there. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So, yep. So we're going to go ahead and look at how to add Luis. Now, to add Luis, you need to have an Azure subscription because you need to create a Luis service, and then you're going to call the service. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about what the Luis service is, how it works, and how to set it up, and then we'll see how to integrate it in our bot. There's something I'd want you to do for me. If you're interested in something specific about the bot framework composer that you want us to treat on the show, just put a comment or tweet at me at any of my social media handles, and then I will respond and I will see how we can make it happen. So if you missed my last session, this is how I want to go about some things. So let me actually change to this before I talk about this. So with the mystery object in the cabinet or the shelf behind me, a new thing, I'm adding some spice to it to make sure that people are actually following and partaking in it. I'm always going to give two sets of code. I'll give a code at the beginning of the stream and another code at the end of the stream. Not necessarily end. It could be somewhere heading, it could be 30 minutes, sorry, it could be 15 5-10 minutes before the end, or it could be in the middle. I'll within the show I would give two codes. I would determine when to give the code. I could also determine to give all the code at the end of the stream or in the middle. I would determine that just to make sure that you're following. But today there's going to be two. All right. So I'm going to give the very first code, and like I said, it's going to be quite simple, right? Very simple. This is the code for the first code for today is XBO. Now, yeah, this code, this one here, right here, XBO. Now, so this is the first code. Before the stream ends, I'll give you the second part of the code. It's actually for this stream, it's a word. Yeah, it's a word. So if you get the second part of the code and you can figure the word out, you have that. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Use that word and tweet that word at me with the mystery object you see in the shelf. And then you would win something from me, a lot of swags on Azure as well. So that is today's that's today's code. All right, so let's get back to it. All right, cool. So I'm just going to do something very quick here. So let's ask. So right now what we've done is we have two dialogues, the numbers dialogues, and then the get random. The welcome the initial welcome, and then we have another dialogue that does get random numbers. All right. So I think there's something that I'll probably just point out to you here. I can actually remove this trigger, and let me show you how to do that. So if you look at this dialog, this is just it has a begin trigger, which is the first thing that happens when this dialog is engaged. And all it's saying here, as you can see now, is actually saying, let's learn about some numbers. What's your lucky number? So these are just two variants. All right. So if you engage the get random number fact dialog, this is the first thing it tells you. However, if you look at the beginning, let's go here at the top here, the beginning of this bot, it just has a welcome trigger that just welcomes you. So if we run the bot right now, and I forgot to mention something in last week's stream, you can actually now test the bot within the bot firmware composer, not necessarily going outside the emulator. So if you click on the test at the top here, you would see this option. You see the option to testing an emulator, or you see the option to what? Open in web chat. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do open in web chat, and that opens it up. Let me get rid of my face there so you can see what's happening in there. So you see that it opens the chat right here. Okay, and let me restart it. Click here to restart it. So it starts and say, hey there, I'm a numbers bot. I can tell you a lot about numbers. Try asking about a random number. Okay, if I zoom in a bit here, so you see that this is just the welcome message. It doesn't include anything at this moment. So if I want to, if I say number, right, it would not do anything because it doesn't know any intent, which is number. If I say fact, all right, or if I say math, all right, at this point it doesn't know anything pertaining to number, fact, or it doesn't have anything. So because we want to use first of all, if you remember when we talked about the numbers API, there are a lot of things. You can have a random number fact, you can have a random math stuff. So we are just dealing with random number. You can use the same trick to build on other stuff. So I went ahead, so we can actually close this and click the top here. So if you click at the top right here of the bot, this side, if you click here, there are ellipses that can actually allow you to stop the bot from running. So click there and then hit stop bot. So what I did was, you can go up here. I went up there, all right, and then I selected add a dialog. Okay, add this dialog, and then gives you a pop-up where you actually the name of the dialog and then how it's done. Okay, so that's how I did it. So let me do this again and another one we can use later, and I'll show you how to link it. I've done this before in the previous, but new season, just trying to backtrack a few things. So click here, add a dialog, and I'll call this one get let's say maths fact. Okay, right? Let's say get maths fact. So, and then I'll say get a random maths fact. Okay, click OK. Now you realize that as soon as I did that, here, if you look to the right, you can see the dialog name here, and then you realize that almost by default it picks up the default recognizer. All right, it picks up the default recognizer. So because we are testing and transitioning into using Luis, I'll just change this back by hitting the drop down and selecting regular expression recognizer. Now by default, okay, it adds a begin dialog here trigger. It adds a begin dialog trigger right here. All right, so you can click on this begin dialog to change how the first action when you call get maths fact behaves. I think I want to change this one to let's just say get random number file. Okay, so this is random. All right, so we can change. Okay, so now random means I can provide. I'm just doing a random one. Okay, or I can say get number fact. So actually, let's change this. All right, so I'm going to just select this, and then I'm going to change this here to, let's say, get random fact. All right, and also if you look closely, this is also using the regular expression recognizer. Now, and then this one will say let's say get maths fact. All right, so either you could pass a number to it, or you could just get a random one, but for this time we're just saying random fact, which is just going to call the API and give me anything random. All right, so to the new one we created, if you click on the begin dialog, the first interaction, okay, you click the plus here, and then let's say first of all, what you do is that when someone interacts with this dialog the first time, or when the intent points you to this, what do you do? So you can go ahead and then say send a response, and then let's say so this is what get maths fact, and the basic would be, okay, let's say what's your preferred number. All right, so we can do this, and I can add a variation. Seems you love maths. What number would it be? Okay, so we just have two variations. All right, so now we have our variations for get maths fact, and then we have get random fact. If you look at the get random fact begin dialog, it's the same thing. It just goes ahead to say let's learn about some numbers. What's your lucky number? All right, now if we go to the top here, all right, of our numbers bot, that very first dialog that you are greeted with when the bot loads, there are two extra dialogues. How does the bot know how to change context, or how to, okay, the person wants a random fact or the person wants a maths fact? Is that okay? How do you determine that? That is where your recognizers coming. I'm taking time to explain the recognizer because that's what we're going to build upon in this episode. All right. So the way to deal with that is to actually connect this dialogue with the other dialogues. So from the beginning here, all right, from the first dialogue, if you click the ellipsis here, you have a lot of options. So let's do that. Let's click it, and then you see the options we have. It's asking us, what do we want to do? Do we want to add a trigger? Okay, and trigger is what initializes a dialogue or an action to happen, all right? Or want to add a knowledge base. More on knowledge base in subsequent episodes. So in our case, we want to add a trigger. Now, when you select this, you are met with this pop-up. And this pop-up, you have, and this is because we chose the regular expression recognizer, is going to tow that path. So if you click on this drop down, let me bring this a bit. You see the options you have. All right. First off, we have the what? The intent recognizer, okay, which says that, okay, I want this trigger to be kicked off with an intent recognizer, all right, or what you might term a Q&A intent recognizer. We don't know, an unknown intent, or actually if an event happens in a dialogue, trigger this, or that will be the trigger, or if there's an activity, or if there's a duplicate intent recognized, or there's a custom event. There are a lot of these events. But in our case, we just want to recognize an intent, which means that the person, anytime someone intends to do anything, be this trigger for us to do something. So we're going to select the intent recognizer, and then here it's asking us, okay, what is the name for this trigger? Okay, and what are we working? We're working with, so let's say, let's call the math. No, let's do the random one first. Okay, let's do the random. So we're going to call this, the name of this trigger is, let's say, random. All right, this is random. Now, what is the regular expression we want to pick up? Anytime someone is interacting with the bot and we hear anything with the what? With random in it. Basically, that's all we are saying. And this is by using the regular expression recognizer, right? So we're just, anytime we hear random, we want this to be triggered, all right? So let's hit submit, and that kicks it off, all right? And here you can give it any name. I'm calling it random, but you can see that is a random trigger, all right? So when the random trigger is hit, the question is, what do you want to do when the random trigger is actually called, all right? So when the random trigger is called, there are a lot of things you can do. And one of them, let's click this plus. These are the options. I can send a response, I can ask a question, I can create a condition, I can loop, I can do dialog management, I can do manage properties, I can do access external resource. We saw this last week, and then we used it to do the HTTP request. In today's session, what we are more concerned about is what we call dialog management. We want to do a dialog management, all right? So hit the dialog management, and then you can see the other options we have here. Begin a new dialog, end this dialog, cancel all active dialog, end a 10, repeat this dialog, replace this dialog, all right? In this case, we want to begin a new dialog off of the word what? Random. So we'll pick begin dialog, and you can look at the properties here. Okay, the properties here. For that tells us, okay, what's the dialog name? Is there any properties? Are there any keys you want to associate with it? All right. In our case, no. So all we want to do is hit the drop down, and you will see a list of all the dialogues you have. We have two: get random fact, get math fact. Or you can write your own expression or create a new dialogue from this context. In our case, we want to actually call the random fact dialogue. So we just click that, and then pretty much we save and we are okay, right? We can do the same thing. Okay, we can do the same thing. We can do the same thing for math, and then go and modify stuff, and then you see the response. So to make this a lot more simple and interesting, let's go to the begin for the math fact, okay, and then let's change this text, and then I'll say, hey, you have reached, or let's make it simple, because we are learning, you can change this anything else. So you say, this is the math fact dialog, all right? And then let's actually just delete this. This is the math fact dialog, all right? And then let's go to the random, and then let's change this as well. Let's delete this and say this is the random dialog. Right? Yeah, let's do this. Is the random fact dialog. All right. Now we've added a random trigger here. Okay. So we can go through the same process and add when someone says maths or when there's the intent of math in it. Okay. So to do the same thing again, to link it, I'm doing this so that you can build from it. You go back here to the numbers, hit this, add a trigger. We're using the intent recognizer, and then this time we'll call this one math. So anytime the person hears math in it or math, they're going to do this. And then we want to also click here, dialog management, begin a new dialog. And then in this case, we're going to call the get math fact. All right. And then that's it. That's how we're using the regular expressions recognizer to do this. Okay. So let's test our bot and see if this is working. So we start it. We click the start here. And once it's done, so we'll just run it here. And as you can see, it starts by saying aloha. It says aloha, welcome to the numbers world. Let's learn about numbers. Okay. So if I go in here and type, tell me a random fact. Okay, here what is the keyword? Remember we said what? Random. So the regular expressions recognizer will recognize the fact that there is random in it and try to redirect it to the random dialog. So let's hit this. Tell me a random fact. Do you see what's happened? So it was able to determine that the intent is random, and therefore this will take you to the random fact dialog and do the set of things happening in the random fact dialog. All right. If I go back and I just say I love maths, okay, and I send, you see what happened here again? It was also able to detect that, okay, because I said maths, it's taking me to the maths dialog. So using the regular expression is just looking out for words like random fact in it, which is just generic. Now, this can be you can make this very complex as you want. All right, you can make this as complex as you want, but sometimes you want things to flow the natural way. You want the system to be able to determine that based on the sentence or the things you've said, your intentions might be something closer to this dialogue. In the regular expressions recognizer, we are going over of the fact that we want to see these keywords or these phrases within your utterances. Okay, the utterance is what you tell the bot, and then intents are picked out from your utterance. Now, the advantage of using a Luis or language understanding is that it uses AI to figure out from what you've said the intention and tries to map it to the dialogues you have. And the good thing is that with the Luis, you add a few statements, and then the whole AI system is trained to kind of figure out, okay, if you do this combination, your intention is you want math. If you do this combination, your intention is what? Random. All right. So that's how Luis works. Now, once you understand this, let's go back and then try to finish it. So now at least we have two dialogues, and we're using regular expressions to determine what we mean. All right. So let's go ahead. Let me do this, and let's stop the bot from running. At this point, if you have any questions, Miss Nyako, Ron, all the invisible people that don't want their names to be mentioned, if you have any questions at this point, you can ask me as we transition to the next one. Now, another thing you can also do is you can incorporate cards and buttons into it. All right, which I've shown in a previous actually I've showed in a previous episode. But now let's talk quickly about Luis, what Luis is. Okay, so Luis is basically a language and its understanding intelligence services, all right, cut short. Now, it's a machine learning based service, okay, that allows you to include natural language processing into your apps, bots, IoT, pretty much anything, all right. An example you can see here is someone says, book me a flight. It uses AI to extract its intent and actually rates it. If you look at this, the query is book me a flight. It's able to predict the top intent, which is what? Book flight. So if you have any dialogue, all right, which has book flight as its intention, it will redirect you to this. You can see that it actually scores it almost, 90%, all right. And then it tells you location finder is something, and these are kind of like all the intents um, in the application at this point. And if you look closely, it picked up entities from it. Now, entities are kind of like variables. So bots like Siri derive their dialogue from. Yeah, so good question, Ron. So bots like Siri, all right, and Cortana and the rest all rely on artificial intelligence and some of these learning. Gone were the days when I'll use Alexa because I have some experience with Alexa. When it started and you are building a bot, when it started, you had to pre-fill it. You had to pre-fill it with like all the possible combination of what someone could say, right? There was actually even a tool that would create words. You could put in nouns and some verbs and stuff like that, and it would generate potential words. It was like hundreds of them. But over time, as AI was, maturing and evolving, they are now able to incorporate AI into it so that you just give it like 5 or 10 examples of what an intention or what an utterance that requires a random fact or something is, and then the AI learns from that. And if it's not there, it will add it to its training data and then train itself. So over time, when you say something, the AI is able to pick up and say, I predict that you are looking for this intent. That is why if I take you back here, you will see that, let's go here. You will see that in the prediction, it says that the top intent is what? Book flight. And it scores it for you. So it's a prediction model that has a score. And for you, you can go off that, if a score is, almost one or something, that, okay, this is the intent based on what the person is altered. And if you look at this thing, another one here, order me 2 pizzas. You realize that order me 2 pizzas, the top intent here is food order. All right. And then so on and so forth. Now, some of the benefits of Lois is that it allows you to design or use this AI capabilities in your application without having to be an AI guru or freak, and it's quick to build, easily integrated into your solutions, and off you go. It is always learning. It's enterprise ready, which means you don't it's you it can fill into your production environment real quick. All right, there's an example of an architecture here where it's being used for, you can use a Q&A maker, search and all that. But this is now, to get this done, you need to have a lowest service, okay, because it's a cloud service that you need to use that for. So let me bring this up here. So I think I have an account. I am pretty sure I have an account. Now, let's see. So yeah, you need to create an account. I think I have one. I believe so. They're going to tie it to my Azure account. That's fine. I believe I do. If not, hooray, we're just going to create. So Ron, I hope I answered your question, right? Yep. So there you go. I have an account there. It's redirected me to the account. It's loading. Loading. Let me bring this here so I don't block anything you see. Awesome, Ron. Good to know you understand. Now AI is evolving, and the good thing about Lois is that you can incorporate it in almost all your solutions. And you have that natural language processing, even sentiment analysis. For instance, you can use Lois and use the sentiment analysis side of it. That when someone sends a tweet, you can do the analysis and see if the person is sounding positive or negative. All right, you can use the same concept in your bot. So let's say if you incorporate this in your bot and the person is saying something, if it's more negative, you can take the person to a different path. I'll give you an example. Let's say sometimes banking and inquiries, and you get frustrated, you're angry because you got some debit you didn't it wasn't valid, and so on and so forth. When you call the bot and you start to talk based on your tone and the way you're typing, the service is able to determine and say, oops, it looks like this guy is angry, and therefore let's reroute him to the angry path. All right, so then you can take it will take you to that angry dialogue or angry path for de-escalation. Oh, this guy sounds happy. How about we give him 10 tokens of our blockchain currency? All right. So these are things you can utilize in your application. So yeah, there's a warning. Yeah, I have an Azure subscription. So let's refresh this. Another thing I can do is actually go to my Azure account and actually add. Let's do this. Yes, exactly wrong. So there is some classification or some analysis going behind to know what's up. Like I'll give you an example. Couple of weeks ago, I was blocked on Facebook because I told a friend his nose. So so they actually now will run through some sentiments to make sure it's not profane, nudity, or you're not violating all these things. Yeah. So let's go. Yep, next. So I'll select West US. That's fine for me. Based on, and then as you can see, use existing authoring resources. I have demystify technology here. I have a lot of resources, but I'm going to use a subscription. And then let's create a new authoring resource. All right, we don't have any authoring resource, which is what we need to do. So let's click, one here, and then the resource name, let's just call it demystify. It's migrating it. Let's see. Okay, no, I use this. Yeah, pick a resource group. I think I have a resource group. Yeah, I have demystify tech resource group. So I don't really need this. Let's call it our numbers bot resource. So migrate. So there has been some change. So I think it's migrating it into my Azure stuff. I should have actually done this before we started, but let's see this. Yeah. So Ron, that's how some of these things happen. All right. So we finish, and hopefully we have our resource created. Now, once the resource is created, the next thing we need to do now is to go to our how do you call it, our bot, and change the recognizer to the default recognizer, which is the language understanding and intelligence service. Okay, we already have an authoring resource, Visual Studio Enterprise. Okay, the migration is done. Let's do this. I think this should have created it already, but yeah, demystify tech. I thought we had created this. Okay, no problem. Let's call this numbers. West US, that's fine. Let's do done. We already have an Azure account, so don't try to create an Azure account. I think it will skip that step and find out that yeah, we have an account, switching authoring resource. This has switched a number of times. But well, so this should give me that. Let's go here and refresh. Okay, good. So now I think we have everything is migrated and we are sorted out nicely. Okay, great. Awesome. So Now let's go back to our bot, and now what we want to do is that we want to change um, the default recognizer. All right. So if I click on the, you realize that here, if I click at the top here, the top of numbers bot, all right, it takes me all the way here. Sorry, let me get rid of this. Let's go here. And then this side, I need to change the default recognizer, right? From regular expression now to default, right? Default is Luis. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and change this to the default recognizer. Now that's done. Now the next thing we need to do now is to add the language understanding data and conditions. All right. How do we want it to function? So we're going to and here's the case. All right. When you use this to when you use the intent recognizer, all right, to switch dialogues. Now you can ignore or delete the intent if you want to, or you can still use a regular expression. But what we want to do is we want to stick to now we're changing to Luis. So we're going to change all the places where we're using regular expressions to map onto what to Luis. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's go and select the weather board. So sorry. Let's do this. So here, just like the way we added the trigger, all right, in the first instance, we're going to go through the same process. So let's add a trigger, and then do you see what's happening? Because we changed to Luis, all right, see what we have. Okay, because we changed the name in Luis, see what we have a different dialog, and then it's asking us of the trigger phrases. So the trigger phrases, we'll give it an example of a trigger phrase. Now, the trigger phrases are kind of like the utterances, things that will be picked out of the utterance. Now, this is very complex in the sense that you can add entities like variables. Like for instance, I can say that tell me a random fact about the number 6. 6 becomes a variable, and then the intent is known that okay, I know that the person wants a random fact for the number 6. All right, or I can say tell me a fact, a math fact about 6 or 7. It knows that you want maths and then the number 6. All right, that's how this looks like. So the same way, we can select this, and then we can remove that. So what we can do is let's cancel this for now, and then let's go and remove. You see this random and this math. Those were how we're interacting with this because we use a regular expression. So let's click here and then remove the trigger, and then click here and remove the trigger. So now the numbers bot doesn't have any way of connecting to the trigger. We've removed the regular expressions, and now we're using what the default, which is Luis. So let's go ahead again, select it, and then add a trigger, as you can see here, and then the intent, we're going to use the intent recognizer, obviously, because it's an intent it's an intention we now. Then in this case, what we want to do is let's start with random. Okay, so we'll call this intent random. Now this is what we want to do for language understanding. Okay, I can put some example phrase here and say things like we have different examples, and I'll explain in another episode what this means. Is the type, the name, and then the rows or the variables and things you want to pass. All right, but for today, let's keep it. All right, let's get rid of this. Let's keep it very simple. All right, and then let's say this one is what random, right? So we will just say tell me a random fact. All right, and then we can add another one and say um, maybe I can say randomize. All right, or I can say the word random. Okay, or I can say I can simply say something like pick one for me. Okay, so this is just kind of like um, training data sets. So I'm training it to say these are the likely, things people will say, and then it will use AI to play around to get information on, ways to extract these kind of sentiments or these kind of like utterances from people. So you hit submit, okay, and then once you hit submit, it's pretty much the same thing. All right. However, there's something I want you to notice. Now, if you look at the top here, you should see an error. Let me take you to the top here. You should see an error here, which is normal, right? So let's open it. Let's click on it and see what it says. Where is that? You can look down here. So you see what's happening. It's saying that Luis key missing. Luis region missing. All right. So it's telling us that we don't have a Luis key. That's why I'm saying that that's why we needed to create a Luis service, because we're going to pick the key from there and bring it here. Because when it takes that utterance, it's passing the utterance on for the service to decipher. All right. So which is normal, which is okay. Now the next thing you need to notice is that in here, do you realize that we are asking for what? A condition. Do you remember when you use the Luis, we saw the top intent because it's a prediction. All right. So here, what you want to do is that on the right side here in the properties, under the what? The yes no condition, you want to right here. What you want to do is you want to put a condition that probably says that if the score, all right, and his intent name random, if random is greater than or equal to 0.8, all right, then that is the intent. I want you to call this intent, okay, after the person has said the utterance. If Luis is 0.8% sure that this is what the person means, then you call this intent. All right. So the way you go about that is you do this. Do you realize that here it gives you the intent name? Let's do this. It gives you the intent name as what? Hashtag what? Random. So the way you trigger this is you do this. You can write an expression. All right. So let's use an expression. So I say it's equal to what? Hashtag is called random. Okay, and as you can see, it's random. All right, and then it would have a property of score on it. All right, you have a property of score on it. So if the score in our case is greater than or equal to 0.8, like 80%, so we're saying that 80%, all right, if you have about 80%, all right, if you have about 80% accuracy or predictability, then we want this intent to what? To trigger. Is that okay? So once we have that done, okay, and the thing is we're trying to avoid a low confidence result so that we can get a high confidence to reroute people to the right place. So with this done, we can do the same thing for how do you call it? For math, we've done for random. Okay. Now, once that happens, all right. Once that happens, we want to move to. It's the same thing. You want to call another. You want to call another dialog. Okay, just like we saw. So I'll go ahead there. Click the intent recognized. All right. Click here, and then I'll say dialog management, begin a new dialog, and then I'll select, this is random, right? So select the random one. Pretty much the same process. Okay. the same process. Okay, the same process. And then we go back to the same numbers bot, add another trigger. And then in this case, we're going to call this one is math. So we'll call this one the math. And then as part of the example, I can say, let's do some maths. Or let's say, I will try maths. Or I can just say math, and I can also say maths. Okay, or I can say, I can type the whole thing, mathematics. Okay, right? And then submit. And here again, I'll select the condition and do write an expression. And again, I'll do hashtag maths, right? Again, is greater than or equal to, and then in this case, um, we can we can reduce this a bit, because it doesn't really matter. You can still use the same, 80% and stuff you want. But for just to let you know, I'll use 0.7 for this one. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and the same thing as well. Once that is hit, I'll do dialog management and then begin a new dialog. And in this case, we'll call the get maths fact. All right. So now we're using Luis to determine based on the accuracy to actually route us to the correct dialog. All right. Now let's go ahead and do this. Now, so for the let's do this. So we have 3, and we are okay with that. So numbers, we've done the. Let's go here and do this. We already have for random, as you can see. We have for math. Yeah, we have all this sorted out. Okay, now with this done, it's time for us to now look for our Azure key. Wow, 8 minutes. Okay, I'll probably take another 5 minutes of your time today so that we can connect this and learn. So once we have this done, we can go to the resource. Okay, so let's minimize this. Let me go here and let me go into here and look for. Let me go to my resources. I think we put it in the demystify. So let's go to resource groups. So if you're not familiar with Azure, Azure is the cloud from Microsoft. Festus, welcome to the show. Is it possible to record and later upload the video for us to download? Yes, actually, Festus, the video will be automatically uploaded to my YouTube channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you subscribe and you hit the bell, anytime I'm doing stuff, but after this, it's going to be available on my YouTube channel. So, Demystify Tech, let's open this up. This is our, and let's see the resources we have. Yes, we have 2 actually. We have numbers and numbers bot. We're going to use numbers. I think when I migrated the 2, it came. So let's use numbers bot. Okay, let's just use that one. So we're going to open the resource that we created, and yep, it's loading. Thank you. Network is very stable and data runs out too quickly. I know, Festus. So, and yeah, sorry guys. So, because I'm also considering other people from different parts of the world, sorry about this. But I've got some feedback where people are asking if I can actually make the videos a bit shorter. Feedback taking. I'm working and planning on that. How to actually do a lot more shorter content. The most of my live stream is very, hands-on details. I want to walk through the process with you, but I've heard you. I'll try to demystify it and create like shorter videos, maybe 10-15 minutes of each step, and upload so that it's easier to consume on the platform. So first off, that's well noted. All right, so what we can do is I'll go to let's go here to the overview. I can go to keys and endpoints. That's what I'm looking for. So we go to keys and endpoint. Yep, I won't reveal it. So as you can see, we have key 1 and key 2. This is the service. Now, this service I've created, it doesn't mean that I can only use it for this bot. I can use the same Luis service for another application I'm building. All right, I can use the keys to do that. So I am going to copy one of the keys. Let's save this. So I'm copying key 1 for the because I don't want anybody to be messing around with my service. I'm going to copy it. It's pasted somewhere here for me. The other thing you need to make note of. So here, let me bring you here. So you need to make a note of any of these keys. You can use any of them. All right. You can either copy the two. Okay. And then the key thing you want is if you pick one key, you also need to make sure of the location. All right, you need to be sure of the location because you need these two to send into the bot. And this I recommend that if you are building a bot and intend to host it for your users in a particular region, look for the closest region to do this so you avoid the whole issue of latency and all that craziness. So I'm going to copy this as well and put somewhere. All right. And now we are going to go ahead and configure our Luis bot with this service. Now it's as easy as, let's bring the bot here, and you see at the top where you see the warning here at this side. So I'll just press this. Let's look at this. No, press this. Good, there you go. And you see there's missing. Let's do this. So there's click on the error sign. You see missing Luis key, and then you have missing Luis region. All right. So let's go ahead and fix this. So there we go. So I'm going to select this and then fix in box settings. So do you see that here? It's asking me for the authoring key and the region. All right. I can actually do get Luis keys after I have done, after I have done that. So for the sakes of protecting my I'm going to do this offline. Well, not offline, but it's just so that nobody is messing around with it. Else, I'd have to delete this authoring key altogether. So I'm just putting it there, and there you go. And then I'll hit get Luis key. Sorry, sorry. Sorry, I had to do this. All right. Okay. Then I pull that out. Let's see. Let's do this here. Cancel. Okay, so I have that there. All right. So that is set. And then let's go back to our bot. Bring this here. And as you can see, we don't have that error again, right? The error is vanished. So now we are now ready to test the bot. Okay, so let's try this. So I'm going to hit start. We have 2 minutes. And maybe the next thing we would do next week is we'll learn how to do let's learn to do what we call entity extraction, which is when I speak. So anytime you're interacting with a bot, what you say is called an utterance. And your utterances can have intent and then entities or variables. And the intent so the example here, the API we are using will give you a random fact about a number. So right now we are just saying random math, right? But what if I say that, hey, give me a random fact about the number 12? I have said two things in my utterance. Actually, let me bring my let me bring a notepad here, okay, and explain this before we call it. We are almost there, guys. Thank you so much. So if I say, hey, um, give me a random fact about the number 24, all right? When I do this, this is an utterance. The whole of this is called an utterance. Now, out of this utterance, Lewis can now try to, determine, okay, how can I rate this? Because it finds the key, it finds random. It says, okay, I believe the person is looking for a random number fact. All right. And also because of this, right? Then it finds 24. So it can assert that, oh, this guy wants a random number fact for the number 24. So now I can actually, so the number 24 becomes what we call an entity. So I can extract this 24. In other terms, you say variable. I can extract this number 24 and then pass it on to the API to do the service. So we'll see how to do entity extraction next week. All right. So make a day with me. Don't miss. So now, yeah, don't save. With our bot running, let's go and test it and restart. And yeah, hey. So let's start with this. Let's say, give me a random fact. I hit this and it's sending. There you go. So this is taking a bit of a time because it's sending, but over time as it's trained, it becomes it becomes faster. So look at this. I just said give me a random fact. All right, and then it says it recognized that, oh, this has to be rerouted to the random fact dialog. Okay, if I try another thing and say how about some maths? Okay, I just said how about some maths. Let's see if Lewis can determine that this guy wants something about, about mathematics. Let's see how it fares. So how about some maths? Let's see. It sent it. Let's see. Let's do math. So sending. Unless, of course, okay. So we found the random. How is maths? Okay. So hold on. Let me go back to the maths and look at the, okay, let's do some maths. I will try maths. There's mathematics. Okay. So this should have, okay, let's restart the bot again and try. Okay, so I said 0.7, anything, oh, hold on, did I say greater than or equal to? Yes. Greater than or equal to, I want a high accuracy. Okay, so let's say this. And then let's restart the bot again. Actually, I'm going to stop this, or better still, to kind of like, because that's more, let's say anything greater than 0.5, just for sakes of, so let's, oh, hold on, I need to kind of like tab out so I can save it and rerun. This is strange the way lately. Okay, I need to do some work on my machine to make sure that I'm not dropping frames, because it's been a long time since I drop frames. So let me hit enter here, actually move on to a different thing, and then let's stop this and then start this again. All right. Okay, so start, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We want to grow this channel to 10K by the end of this quarter, so please subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend, join, put questions. I would love to hear what you want to see, what you want to learn. We can tailor this stream to the things you want. Okay, so let's go test it and call it a day. Restart this. So we start, and let's say I love math. Let's try this. Hopefully it's sending, it's sending, it's sending, it's sending. And just now, and let's see if Lois found it. Lois, wake up. Actually, whilst that's happening, let me go check what's happening in the back end for Lois. Okay, let's try this. Let's say pick one, and let's see if it's still. And there you go. So pick one. So it figured out. Okay, this guy is trying to get something random. All right. Let me try math. I don't know. Maybe it's still not being able to pick out because of maybe the list I gave it. It's still not able to pick out the math well. So let's do this. I will stop this before we end. Let's go to math. I will change this. Let's say 80% for the sakes of accuracy. All right. Yep. Equals. Yeah. The intent name greater than or equal to. And then let's do. I will try math. Let's do math. Okay. Good. And there you go. Oh, so this is why it's not working. Now you guys were following, but you were not pointing that out to me. We forgot to add the score. So this is it. Math.score. We're just doing the maths. I forgot to put the score, so it wasn't picking up. So let's save this and rerun this and test it. We can call it a day. I hope this has been very interesting, educative, informative. You've learned a lot. And this basic principles I'm giving you, you can use this to build a lot of, interesting and cool bots. So let's test this and then make sure you make a date with me. If you're interested in Power Platform, Sunday is Power Series. We'll be talking about building triggers, custom triggers. We'll take it from there. And then, if you love IoT, next week we have Olivier. He's a principal program manager at Microsoft for the IoT ecosystem. He's going to share a lot of stuff, so make sure you don't miss that. So let's test this. Let's restart this. And let's do some maths. And boom, it sends it and it knows that I need. There you go. This is the maths fact dialog. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making a date with me. If this was interesting enough, please, 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 ding, 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 subscribe and hit the bell. Join my family. Let's learn new things. Let's connect all these things we are learning. Think about it. You build a bot here that talks to Azure IoT. You can tell the bot to turn on the light and it turns it on. You can tell it to connect to Power Automate to do something. That's all I'm about. Using technology to solve problems, everyday problems. Things you don't even think about, we make them happen on all my shows. So if you're interested, please make sure that you're subscribing, you're bringing your friends to join. And if today was interesting, please keep your comments and feedback coming. It helps me build the channel in the way you want to see it. So with that said, happy Friday. Stay safe. Don't chill too much. Still, COVID is around. Be mindful of that. Let's be the change we want. Learn something to make the world a better place. With that said, thank you very much for all of you who joined on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, Twitch. I love you all. Thank you so much. And let's meet again next week for another episode. I'm out.